And good Sunday morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube, Facebook, and also on the podcast platform, the Lanecast Ag Podcast, for our Sunday recap here on the Western Ag Network. I'm Lane Nordlund. Thank you so much for joining us. Grab a coffee. It's going to be a great few minutes. It might be 20 minutes, might be an hour. It just depends on how long we decide to talk today. As always, standing by from his home studio, Mr. Russell Nemetz is joining us. And Russ, as the week has gone, it's been pretty good weather-wise for a lot of producers, a lot of hay getting put up. And I'll quickly talk through some of our headlines today. But before we do that, how'd your week go?
Pretty good, all things considered. And as you mentioned, plenty of headlines to cover for farmers and ranchers, not just here in our region, but across America. And we're going to touch on a few of them. But, a couple big reports out for farmers out there that have a direct impact for livestock producers. And then, of course, some big video sales happened this past week, kind of giving us a better glimpse of what those fall delivered calves are going to be worth this year.
Yeah, very true. We're talking about those world egg supply and demand numbers. We'll focus on the wheat and corn estimates out this past week and also the Endangered Species Act. And we're going to catch up with some Wyoming producers that are talking about the need to reform the ESA. And that kind of ties into our grizzly bear conversations. A lot of grizzly bear headlines coming out this week as well. And hey, egg prices, we're going to talk about that. And that big one, the week in the Rockies sale in Steamboat Springs. That was brought to you by Superior Livestock Auction. We're going to catch up with one of their auctioneers and walk us through some of those Region 2 cattle, which makes up most of Western Ag Network country. And also, we're going to talk about how a thumbs up emoji can really put a damper on your day as well. But, Russ, the other morning when I was driving, we have our town car, we call it. It's a 2000 Lincoln Continental. It's a Quicksilver, as I like to call it. I was coming in from town and looking, and so I'm like, what is over on our hay bales that we got stacked? And I'm looking, and it was a bunch of fox.
Really?
Like young foxes, everything. And I'm like, God, I wonder if I can get a picture of that. I couldn't do it. I would have loved to show that. Well, then for like 40 minutes, we're just hearing these fox just yiping and yipping. And so I go out there thinking, what is going on? Our horses were going nuts in the corral. And it was coyotes chased those young fox up onto our bales. Well, then they bailed off those when I came by. And I thought that would have been cool to get a video of. So I'm out there and I'm like, I probably should have had a gun and shot the coyotes. The fox don't mean nothing, but I could have shot 2 coyotes. But, before we jump into it, I do want to point something out. Russ, last week we shared the video of the this baler.
Right.
We talked about how it's spelled wrong with the I. Our friend Sam Frazier with Frontier Productions pointed out that not only is Baylor spelled wrong, but John Deere is spelled wrong.
I saw that from Sam, and thanks, Sam, for helping us continue to get the word out about this. I can't believe that. What an idiot, that guy who's posting that online.
Well, obviously, I can't afford John Deere equipment. That's why I don't know how to spell it. But, yeah, we forgot an E on there. I mean, look at us. We were making fun of the guy for putting an I on there, and we can't even spell John Deere right.
Well, to our credit, Lane, that's the reason we're radio and television broadcasters. I mean, if we wanted to be in print, we would have been in print. We don't have to worry about spelling. It's just how we say it.
That is true. But Baylor, yeah, or John Deere. That's probably how you should say it, right? Well, Russ, we were talking about Endangered Species Act and grizzly bears. That's something we've followed for quite some time, I guess. What's that conversation that you have on your radar here today?
Well, of course, it's one of those big headlines that's grabbed our attention for a lot of years, really since the 1970s when it came out from the federal government. Whether we're talking about wolves, the reintroduction that happened, 20, 30 years ago in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, or what they're doing in Colorado as we speak to introduce gray wolves there, or sage grouse or grizzly bears here of late. I mean, there's a lot of talk in the countryside about reforming the Endangered Species Act itself. And it was a big topic recently in Riverton at the Wyoming Stock Growers Association's convention, where we had the chance to catch up with new Wyoming stock grower president Jack Berger out of Saratoga and hear his thoughts about why it's so important to have that ESA reform. So once a species is actually, reaches its target, it comes off that list.
Yeah, it shouldn't be so hard to get species off there and stuff. And I mean, we know it's kind of a broken system. It had good intentions, like you said, when it started, but what they're celebrating it this year and what they have a 2% success rate, I think. So I'm not sure that's something to be real proud of, but they have removed a few species, but it'd be nice to get some reform. It seems like we talk about it over and over and over again, but not much happens, but it needs to happen.
And I think, Lane, all of us in farm and ranch country would agree it needs to happen sooner rather than later. And I know it's on the radar of most of our congressional delegations here in the Intermountain West, where the Endangered Species Act, of course, really hits home, especially in these mountain states.
It's scary when you think that, you don't know when one of these bears is going to be rolling into camp and attacking you, your livestock, or your animals, whatever it might be. It's makes the hair on your neck stand up, even if we're a few states away from that conversation right now.
Well, absolutely, and for folks not out here living in what we're talking about this morning, I mean, in the bigger cities, I mean, this is a real issue, and it's going to be a growing and continuing issue until we really get that apex predator off the endangered species list and turn management over to individual states, like we've been able to do in the past with wolves. And I think that's a great success story. I mean, considering the number of wolves that they reintroduced in the early 90s in the greater Yellowstone area to what that number is today, it just goes to show that you can have a successful reintroduction or a management program once you reach that target limit. And Lane, you and I have been talking about too, I mean, it's just a matter of time when these bears reach a certain threshold, that number just continues to grow. And when a lot of times the older bears push out the newer bears, whether it's, along the Rocky Mountain front in Montana or in the greater Yellowstone National Park area, which of course affects not just Montana, but Wyoming and Idaho. Another headline this past week was a grizzly or grizzlies were sighted for the very first time in the Pryor Mountains in south central Montana, which of course, I mean, just making an educated guess, I'm sure, that greater Yellowstone Park population is starting to migrate now into the Pryors because the numbers are so great.
Well, it's just, again, it's unsettling. And, when we were branding, this spring, I was horseback and we had a pair go off into the brush. And we have a lot of black bears around there. But last year, grizzly bear went through that area, hung around for about a month, is the neighbors who saw it there multiple times. And I don't know what was in the brush, but my horse knew something was in the brush. And, all I had was a rope. But there was something big in the brush that my horse could smell. And it was not the pair that was trying to sneak away from that gather. But it's just, you have to be aware. And again, I am not opposed to seeing wildlife. I think wolves are awesome. I think grizzly bears are awesome, but I think you have to be able to manage them, and that management should include hunting in some of these areas. And that's why it should be up to the states, like so many cattle groups talk about. But Russ, your career in farm broadcasting really has followed almost that evolution of wolf reintroduction to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem in Montana. What has that been like, watching the opposition to that, then the implementation of the wolves into Yellowstone and their spread into Montana, and how important that landowner and farmer rancher input was in trying to manage those wolves as they came off the list, because they were recovered. They hit that number of recovery in states like Montana and Wyoming and Idaho, actually manage those wolves, and hunting seasons are put put into place. What was that like, over the past 30 years following that headline and talking to people that advocate for the permanent listing of species like that and those who want to see state management of wolves?
Well, I think it's been an incredible success story for all parties involved. I mean, as you might expect, it was a very controversial issue when it first came up there in the early 90s. And I can't remember how many wolves were actually introduced or reintroduced at the time, but the numbers speak for themselves, not just here in Montana, but in Idaho and Wyoming. And I think it's a real testament of what can really happen in today's society if all parties involved, you know, can take out the politics as best as possible, take out the emotion, and really sit down around a table and visit, have meaningful conversations, and hammer out, a working and manageable plan that at the end of the day will achieve the results that at least some results from everybody's own industry. And I think that's what's really happened in the case of the gray wolf in the greater Yellowstone area. I mean, as you mentioned, the species is more than recovered, as evidenced by more and more gray wolf sightings outside the national park area. And, hopefully, sooner rather than later, something similar can happen, with grizzly bears and what other species, might pop up in the future once they actually reach that recovered status. It's a great blueprint, if you will, for something like the grizzly bear, and of course this ongoing process of trying to get it delisted, management turned over the states. But gosh, I mean, as you know, and as our viewers and listeners know, everything is just so highly politicized in Washington, D.C. It's not like the old days. Even in the 90s, Republicans and Democrats and independents would, at least some point at the end of the day, if they had to even lock themselves in a hallway broom closet to, hammer out an agreement, something actually got done that was meaningful for the American public. And that's getting harder and harder to do out of our nation's capital.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, a lot of big conversations there, and more grizzly bears and wolves popping up across the countryside where they haven't been in many many years. But that aside, Russ, we saw another big report for July come out, that World Egg Supply and Demand Estimates report, and corn was really the big shocker in those numbers there. But well, I think we'll just start off with wheat. But, Russ, before we look at those numbers, what is the importance for our viewers? A lot of the time, we focus a lot, of course, on our grains and our livestock. But for our livestock producers out there that maybe don't follow these supply and demand numbers, what are the significance of these world levels and how that impacts our commodities and then our outlook for what pricing may be for the rest of the year?
Well, I think they're a really good snapshot each month as to where we're at, not just domestically, but of course, other, commodity producing nations that we ultimately compete with on the export front around the world. And as we've been talking, both on air and online through programs like this, I mean, on the wheat side, drought and just not being able to produce a healthy wheat crop, whether it's here in the northern plains or down in the central and southern plains. I mean, overall, our wheat ending stocks and what we've harvested the past couple of years and what we put into storage just isn't there. And then so that's in part what has helped drive the wheat market higher, along with the situation over between Ukraine and Russia. But more recently, a lot of talk was, in the Corn Belt, just the drought's impact on this year's corn crop. And of course, the more corn available is always a bullish thing for livestock producers. And I think this week's, big surprise was, despite all those worries out there about whether or not, we're going to have a great corn crop or not, at least as of right now, USDA says says we are. In fact, we're on pace to have a record corn crop, which, might put some pressure on corn prices for the grower out there. But it's good news for livestock producers, especially the cattle business. Where we're pouring a lot of that, high quality U.S. corn into those animals to grow high protein beef.
Now, very true, and let's just look at those corn numbers again. We are seeing that USDA lowered its yield estimates by 4 bushels per acre, though still higher than the pre-report average to 177.5 bushels per acre. In that, even with the lower yield, though, Russ, as you mentioned, the production forecast is to possibly set a record at 15.32 billion bushels. That's up 55 million bushels from those June WASDE estimates. If realized, that would top the 2016 corn crop, and that was a lot of corn back in 2016. But again, that farm gate price really depended on how much corn is out there. It's projected to be $4.80 a bushel, and as you mentioned, that's welcome news for feedlot operators. Those input costs always really hammering what the profitability can be for the feeders, and that trickles down to the cow calf guy. But very interesting numbers, and this is all despite the drought in that part of the world too. But again, we'll see what the actual harvest is here in just a few months. And as for wheat, let's look at those numbers here quick. Wheat production increased on the estimate of all production to 1.739 billion bushels. That's up from 1.6 last month. But the farm gate price, disappointingly, that dropped 20 cents to $7.50 a bushel. The winter wheat production is forecast to be up 6% from last month at 1.21 billion bushels. Spring wheat production, that forecast is down 1% from last year at 479 million bushels. Same story there, though. We are seeing a lot of harvest progress from the south moving north, and the further north you get, the crop is looking much better. But I tell you what, up here in Montana, where I'm broadcasting from, Russ, that winter wheat is starting to turn color. It looks really good out there, and all my neighbors that are farmers, they should be pretty happy with that crop, because it could be really good if Mother Nature just keeps playing a fair game for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, we've talked about it before, but these past couple of years have been pretty tough for farmers and ranchers, especially here in the northern plains, and for them to actually have a crop is just great. I know there's still a few pockets, like I've seen some posts from some of our friends north of Shelby in that sunburst area where unfortunately they haven't quite seen as much moisture this year like others have, and certainly our thoughts go out to those guys. But even so, I thought it was pretty cool. They're still very optimistic, and of course cheering their farmer friends on out there, wishing them the best in their crops and harvest and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's expected. I mean, when the wheat price goes up, you're going to probably see, more wheat acres go in, and that's what is happening. It'll be interesting to see, because we talked last week about, especially in Kansas and Nebraska, their winter wheat fields are still in some pretty tough conditions. But the further north you get, it's going to be good, and spring wheat is looking good, and the Durham crop is looking good, and of course now we'll just have to fight off all those diseases and threats from insects as we move closer to harvest.
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up, though. I mean, pasture wise, out in my pasture, riding around, those grasshoppers are starting to get thick. It really didn't impact our hay crop. We got that up, but it just seems anywhere, especially where that stuff's drying up, getting a good cure just in the pasture. A lot of that wonderful grass called cheatgrass, those hoppers are really thick in that, and then in some of that thicker, just lush looking grass, they're there. You can hear them, but not as thick as we had them late last summer when they moved into our region. They migrated in last fall, and they were all over. But there were so many producers, whether it's Choteau County, East, Winnett, Montana, Jordan, all that country, and just different pockets there in Montana. They're horrible. I know in North Dakota they've been bad as well, and just other regions. The Mormon crickets also kind of in the Colorado region and Utah this year as well. But I am hoping that we don't get hammered too hard. Hopefully we can get a little more moisture, but our pastures look way better than I thought they would. But I am really concerned that these grasshoppers are going to just hatch even more and have a bigger impact as we get warmer and drier.
Yeah, I thought with the cool and wet spring, early summer that we had, we would have been able to fight off those grasshoppers. And it just goes to show just, how resilient those little buggers are and how damaging they can be. And I mean, you nailed it, Lane. I mean, I even noticed them where I live in town. They're getting even thicker in the grassy areas. So just something for growers and ranchers to pay a close attention to. And I guess we'll just have to take it as it comes.
That's what we do in agriculture.
Right.
Hey, let's take a quick break and thank our friends at Ag Risk Advisors. We'll be back. We'll talk about that Superior Livestock sale and how ag prices are continuing to trend lower. We'll have more right after this.
Ready for a real PRF partner?
He was willing to track us for a year and provide that data back to us for a year. That's a guy making a pretty big investment.
At Ag Risk Advisors, this isn't our first rodeo. We are one of the most experienced in pasture rangeland forage. Honesty, commitment, trust. Many companies use these words. At Ag Risk Advisors, we earn them.
Again, a big thank you to our friends at Ag Risk Advisors for bringing us these opportunities to share these headlines with you. Well, I got a little early on the trigger there with that B-roll there, Russ, but wholesale ag prices, we saw those reach a high at the end of December 2022. What do you think the price a dozen at the end of 2022 was for those eggs, Russ?
Was it $5 and some change, maybe?
Maybe. Did you read my script beforehand?
No, I'm just taking a shot at. I mean, a lot of times my wife gets after me all the time. It's because I don't really pay attention to prices, especially at the grocery store, and I know I should. But honestly, like, I just took a stab at it, but I knew they were high. But I mean, $5 is a lot for a dozen eggs.
See, that's why you wouldn't do very well on The Price is Right, probably.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, $5.37 was the height it reached in December 2022. Of course, all of this came in regards to the avian influenza, which surely is the worst animal disease outbreak that the U.S. has seen in terms of scale. And I actually could not find an updated number. I know we haven't seen much in terms of that disease coming back here as we move through the summer in 2023. But in February, it was over 60 million birds had died or been culled due to avian influenza, which is spread by wild fowl. And whether it's a big facility with millions of birds or layers or turkeys or whatever it might be, or a backyard flock.
Yeah,
just having a devastating impact on that. And so the prices, they've fallen quite a bit. Wholesale prices at the last week of May, when USDA reported, were 89 cents. So that's
oh, really?
Yeah. But in June, they did go up to $1.23 per dozen on a national level, but that's still 77% lower than December 2022, when those egg prices really shot up. And I mean, that's I was worried about how much they were going to cost when we were dyeing Easter eggs,
Well, that's a huge difference. I mean, from $5 and some change down to 87 cents. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, as soon as you said that, and it's crazy because we do this stuff every single day, but even like every once in a while, like just bells and whistles and red flags go off in my little pea brain. I'm like, Was
Well,
that an industry market overreaction last year?
oh,
Uh, and to really over sensationalize, I mean, not taking away the seriousness of avian influenza, but was the shortage of eggs really that real?
Oh, I think it was. It was supply and demand. They lost nearly 43 million laying hens, excuse me. 43 million laying hens were depopulated because of that. So, I mean, that's a lot of eggs just taking out of the equation there. And but I think the this shows just how resilient poultry can be, and pork, for example, too. They can turn around that protein production and repopulate their flocks and on the hog end, their hog inventory as well, so much faster than livestock producers. And you look back to 2014 when we were seeing these record high calf prices. We had a low US cattle inventory herd, and it
Yeah.
quickly was rebuilt in 2015, 16, and 17 because there were some favorable weather conditions. But, producers are so streamlined in the poultry industry where they can come in, they can have I don't know how, I'm not an expert in the poultry end of things, but they can hatch out a lot of chickens in a very fast order and repopulate that, though. It just shows how much more risk cattle producers have or sheep producers have in that equation of producing and providing protein to the public. So that's my takeaway of it too. But a 77% drop there. But again, I'm not making light of those producers who did have to depopulate millions and millions of birds, because if a livestock producer had to do that, they'd be going under right away. So I feel when a producer's hard work and a disease comes in like that, it's troubling. But yeah, I just think they're resilient in how they can turn around that production level.
Yeah, that's a good explanation, and makes me think about why livestock organizations like NCBA and U.S. Cattlemen's Association, American Sheep Industry Association, you name them, they're all working hard to keep animal diseases like foot and mouth disease and of course BSE out of this country that would have a direct and immediate impact on cattle producers especially.
Yep. Well, speaking of cattle, though, Russ, the founder of Western Ag Network, Evan Slack, of course, the Western Ag Network used to be called the Evan Slack Network. Evan's saying higher, higher was always music to a farmer or rancher's ears. And I tell you what, we can say higher, higher with this week in the Rockies sale that just wrapped up with Superior Livestock Auction.
Yeah, it was another great sale in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. A couple 100,000 head of cattle, a lot of them from right here in Western Ag Network country. And Evan would have been saying higher, higher a lot this past week. And it's good news. I mean, for cattle producers who, like other producers, have been, fighting drought and higher input costs and low markets up until the past 12 months or so. And this week I had the opportunity to catch up with a good friend of ours out of central Montana who owns Lewistown Livestock Auction, but he also helps out on the auction block now for Superior Livestock Auction, Kyle Shobe. And we talked about this week's market for those fall delivered calves from Region 2, which is most of Western Ag Network country.
It's been very, very, very strong. They kicked off the Council Bluffs sale, the Corn Belt Classic just a month ago. And really, we didn't know where we were going to land within $40, $50. We knew it was going to be good. But how good it was going to be was yet to be foreseen. That sale really set the bar, and then things have just continued here at the week of the Rockies. And maybe we shouldn't be surprised. Commodities have kind of moved in our favor in some ways. We've had two reports come out, cattle on feed and the crop report, that were favorable toward the cattle complex. So I think all of that factors in. The bottom line is there's a supply and demand issue at the very core of this thing that continues to drive demand, and it's being evidenced here this week in Steamboat Springs.
And he says tight cattle supplies, along with a record corn crop on tap, have fall delivered calves from our region in high demand.
What we're really seeing is the 5 weights taking off, and In spots, those were even $20 higher over the market that we've seen here in the last several weeks. So, but you can't say that as a blanket comment, because as you go through, there's no two lots that are exactly the same. You talk about location, geography, type and kind of cattle, shot records, programs, all of those factors certainly play in. But yeah, like you said, the 500 to 600 pounders, 270 to 345, landing in that range on the steer side. On the 6-weight cattle, 605 to 650s, 250 to 307. The heavier 6-weight, 660 to 690, 261 to 285. Again, that would line up pretty, right at the top end of what we saw a month ago, but certainly things are looking solid.
And Lane, as Kyle mentioned, and you and I have talked a lot about, as the rest of our team has for a lot of months now, tight supplies, and now this record corn crop on tap are pretty good ingredients for a higher fall calf market moving ahead.
No, very true. It's exciting. It's fun to watch those prices. And his last name is Shobi, right?
Shobi.
Shobi.
I've never heard it.
I joke.
Shobi. Ever. Does he
I,
know about this?
the first time that I ever worked away from my dad's fencing crew or for family, his dad Jason hired me when I was in 6th or 7th grade, and I started ringing at the show of auction and realty at their auctions that they'd have, and they would do the big estate sales, the Western antique stuff, and Kyle would have been in college at that time when I was working almost every weekend when they'd have those sales for Jason Shobe. Now Kyle and Jason run that there in Lewistown. And of course, Kyle has Lewistown Livestock Auction, but it's fun just catching up with folks. And I had to throw a little fun in there, Shobe, because a lot of people say that this is Kyle Shobe. No, it's Shobe.
No, it's definitely Shobe. But yeah, Superior is pretty lucky to have him. I mean, he's a past world champion livestock auctioneer, and he's doing great things there in central Montana, as you and your family know. I mean, you market a lot of critters through there yourself. So it's fun, whether it's Superior Livestock or here in the coming weeks we'll have another Northern Livestock video auction sale, and then of course the first part of August, Cattle Country Video will have their Oregon Trail Classic out of Gering, Nebraska. If ranchers haven't talked with a rep of their choice, I think now's the time to pick up the phone, either call them, shoot them a text, or something. At least start the conversation while the market is as hot as it is right now, Lane. And as Kyle said, I mean, especially those fall delivered calves from our part of the world, they truly are in high demand with not just the farmer feeders out there, but the big feedlot operators as well.
Yeah, let's I almost forgot to throw this up here, Russ. Just those prices in general. And these are cattle from right here in our region, which Western Ag Network covers almost it does cover all this region. And just to see these prices for the steers that sold on the week of the Rockies sale. I mean, when we are seeing 6-weight steers bring 307, and obviously those are program cattle, they're reputation cattle, but it just really goes to show that the folks that were able to retain their top producing cows that have a great calf crop, it really helps this drought that we've been going through. It helps us weather that just a little bit better. But look at those prices.
Yeah, it's long overdue, and before we started the program, we were talking about, well, what was the heifer spread, between the heifers and the steers in this past sale. And again, these are just unofficial results, Lane and Russell's math skills, which some days are better than others, but we just kind of guesstimated that, the spread was probably, somewhere between $30 and $20 and $30 between steers and heifers on this sale.
So, I mean, that's still quite a bit of, quite a spread, but those prices are still firmed up pretty good on the heifer end of things. And, do you think we're going to see those narrow up as we get through the summer and closer into the fall, as folks maybe look for more replacements depending on weather?
Well, you would think so, right? I mean, with the supply situation where it's at, because the past few years, I mean, These cow-calf operators have just been decimated by drought, but at the same time, these higher prices are encouraging ranchers to have a good heartfelt visit with their ag lender, and a lot of them have a lot more grass to put animals on. A lot of them are going to fill up their hay corrals for the first time in the past few years, and so a lot of these guys are going to be holding back their heifers, for replacements and trying to rebuild or grow their cow herd, take advantage of this. But for the ones that can't, I mean, supply and demand just says it all. I mean, and as Kyle mentioned, I mean, every single cattle on feed report for the past few months or so, I mean, have, the numbers just aren't there. I mean, they just aren't. And so, things are going to continue to get tighter out there. So, like I said, I mean, for at least as of right now, it looks like the cow-calf guy is back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, you stole that one from Joe Goggins.
I did.
You and I have both watched a lot of video this week on the video auctions, whether it was the Western market, video auction market, or the Superior Sale. And, being in TV and, having cameras and, I think I might be a little too picky in footage, but I know where I'm going with this.
I do.
But when you're watching a video auction, whether it's on the dish or on YouTube or through the SLA stream or whatever it might be, and somebody is just in their pickup filming calves, and ranchers work hard, they raise good calf crop. The livestock marketing field reps work hard to get these calves marketed, but nothing gets under my skin. As our friend Flint Rasmussen was talking on his live stream on Facebook this week, he was salty on a few things. Well, shaky livestock video gets me salty. I mean, it's just, and you're watching it, it makes you sick. First off, just like, like I'm on a boat, it's flatlanders on the water. Motion sickness. And
take your Dramamine, Lane.
It just drives me nuts. And so it was Amazon Prime Day this week, the 2 days of Amazon Prime Day. And so I posted to social media this week that for $15.98, you or your livestock video sales rep can steadily film your calves for the video sale. This got a lot of praise from our friends like Sam Frazier with Frontier Productions, who said, I have to like this because he always has to edit all the video for Northern Livestock video that folks send in. And, that $15 tripod, you might make an extra $20,000.
Yeah, you might, and another tip, long as we're kind of talking tongue in cheek here, when you're doing those type of videos out there, as you mentioned, these ranchers are putting a lot of hard work raising that calf crop and their livestock. Switch your phone to high definition, right? High definition video now. That's what television and video is all about. Nobody really wants to watch scratchy, blurry video of anything.
No.
Especially of you and me.
Well, and they don't want too high def of you and me. They'd see my unibrow.
I was actually the happiest guy in the broadcast industry when we moved away from standard television and actually went to widescreen TVs, because it actually thinned me out just a little bit.
I remember that day when we went at Q2 and we went live HD. That was like in 2015 or 16.
Yeah. And it became very, very quick and apparent how high definition television will pick out every single flaw you have on your face.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's a lot of people that have seen me or know me that I've worn glasses my whole life, but I had the PRK refractive surgery back in March on my left eye. So that's why I haven't been able to wear glasses, or why I've not had to wear glasses, but my wife does have to keep up on my unibrow. So I don't have one eyebrow, this is my, this is what I'm known for.
Well,
I don't want you to look too close because it probably
I'm actually looking down to see. Well, yeah, I'm blessed that I'm married to a hair stylist, cosmetologist. So Miss Rachel keeps me looking pretty good.
Yeah, she does. But no, with that was my salty. I just get salty when I'm watching hours of video sale and you got these great prices and somebody's just out in the pickup and that's what they're filming. And I get it. Some days it's tough to get video, but step outside, get a gimbal, or heck, hire Russell Nemetz to come out and film your calves.
Oh, yeah.
You have time to go do that. But
hire one of us. Yeah. Well, you are a salty dog. With that, let's go ahead and step away for this message from our friends at the NCBA.
When it comes to the beef business, there's no room for gray area. The decisions being made in Washington affect the future of the beef industry, the livelihood of your fellow farmers and ranchers. Your National Cattlemen's Beef Association knows there's what benefits cattlemen and there's what doesn't. Visit ncba.org to learn more.
As we come back to our Sunday morning recap here on the Western Ag Network on YouTube and Facebook Live. If you haven't done so, subscribe to us on YouTube or like us and follow us on Facebook and share this conversation. Again, we're just having fun here recapping in a more relaxed fashion. People, Russ, people are like, I got a message the other day. Why are you wearing a cowboy hat on this? I'm like, I did not want to comb my hair this morning or take a shower. Let's just be truthful. So that's why I'm wearing the hat. And actually, I'd gone like 2 months without getting a haircut. So my hair, that's why I've been doing all my reports out in the hayfield because my hair was just thick and, it just curly and you can't, man. That's why I'm in my button up here today. My snaps.
Well, hey, I told you. Well, I was giving you a compliment before we even started this program, and you didn't even have me like pulled up. I mean, I'm glad you weren't talking smack about me because I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
We were talking smack. You didn't log in early enough, I guess. But I'm still waiting on my Wrangler sponsorship because, I just, to get salty again, the price of jeans. Like growing up, Russell, when you graduated high school in the early 90s, what did a pair of Wrangler jeans cost back then? Do you remember?
Oh, I bet they were under $20.
Yeah. But
right?
like nowadays, if you were going to go buy like say a pair of cinch jeans, what would that cost you at the Western store?
I don't know. I would have to guess $40-$60 maybe.
No, they're like averaging $75 to $80.
What?
Yeah. That's why I'm just like, I stick with the original. I used to wear, Kimes jeans and I still wear them, but I'm just not going to buy any new ones or cinch or whatever. And as I, grow older and embrace my dad bod, I'm not going to spend money on, clothes. But it's just like, I went back to the 13 MWZ Wranglers, unwashed, $22, a pair at the store. And if you hit it right, you can get buy two, get one free. But it's ridiculous. I get my dress shirts from Joseph A. Banks when they have a sale. We go through shirts, we stain them. I mean, I don't know. It frustrates me.
I'm not sure I could even squeeze into a pair of Wrangler 13 MWZs now.
Well, it's not a 13 waist.
What?
It's not a 13 waist.
Well, I know, but God, they're pretty slim. I'm not I'm not really designed for slim anything.
You can't
slim
fit in
shirts, slim jeans. Yeah,
well, you can't fit into them Wrangler stranglers.
No.
Well, like I'm a beanpole. Anybody that knows me, so I got to wear the slim, even though I got my dad bod going on here.
Yeah, I like the jeans these days that have a little bit of give and stretch.
Well, we could do a whole nother segment on me trying to get into a pair of starch jeans in the morning at a hotel. When you're out on the road, because National Laundry, I should get them to sponsor us on this. National Laundry in Great Falls, they can starch some pants.
There you go.
You pull a hamstring getting them on, they're starched good. And you can quote me on that. Hey, let's look to some headlines. Russ, when we're texting back and forth, a lot of the time we can keep it as yep, send an emoji, a smiley face, and maybe even a thumbs up when we're trying to set, hey, what days of the week do you want to do programming? Do you have TV? Do you have this? We send a lot of texts throughout the week. And we're looking up to Canada for this next story. This was one of our top ones on YouTube, TV, and radio this week, and that is the story about CNN originally reported that up in Saskatchewan, grain purchasers from Southwest Terminal sent a text messages to Bob and Chris Actor wanting to buy flax. This was in the year 2021. They were trying to buy flax for $17 a bushel with delivery occurring that year. Look at that beautiful flax field there on the screen.
That is beautiful.
But after several phone calls with the farmers, that terminal drafted a contract for farmer Chris Actor to sell to the terminal 86 metric tons of flax for $17 a bushel to be delivered in November of 2021. So this is where it gets a little sticky, and we've had a lot of conversation with audience members online about this. The grain terminal rep had signed a contract in ink and then sent the photo of the contract via cell phone to Chris Actor with the message saying, please confirm flax contract. Well, according to court documents, the contract was never honored by the farmer. They didn't send that contract, or they never delivered the flax in November of that year. And the elevator thought they were going to be getting all that flax. The farmers claim that the text was not a confirmation of the contract, because he responded back. Maybe I jumped over that. He responded back with a thumbs up that he got that contract. And he said that was just, hey, I got the contract, but I haven't signed it. Well, the Saskatchewan court up there, the King's Bench, as they call it in that neck of the woods, well, they said, no, that's a verbal contract. And the judge ruled that the farmers owed Southwest Terminal $82,000 plus interest and the cost for failing to deliver the flax. And, as I said on air, the expression of be careful what you say also needs to be included to be careful what you text. And, diving more into that, I guess the terminal had done deals with these farmers before, just needing a text verification in the past. And that was how, I guess, the high court decided that the contract was a verbal contract, and the text, the thumbs up did count as a verbal contract on that front. A lot of people saying that that shouldn't be the case, but obviously the King's Bench up in Saskatchewan thinks otherwise with that ruling. So I guess be careful what you text when you say, yep, I got the contract.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, holy cow. That's a big bill. And
you gave me the thumbs up on my pay increase last week too. You gave me a thumbs up on that, right? For $500,000 a year.
I missed that one. I
responded. I'm pretty sure I saw that in my text messages.
Yeah. That's crazy though, isn't it? I mean,
but think of it this way. I mean, people, handshake deal. Verbal contract on everything except real estate. Verbal contracts are pretty much the law of the land on so many of these other topics. But did I mention in there? I was going through those notes so fast, and my eye recovery hasn't been the best. But that the flax price jumped from $17 a bushel to $41 a bushel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and that's where I think some people are like, well, did these farmers just outright, well, we want more money, we're going to sell it to another terminal.
Right.
Yeah, I jumped over that in my details. I'm not a very good reporter, I guess.
That's you're only telling us what you want us to hear.
Yes, we're in the media.
Stop it, Lane. We demand the facts.
And I'm trying to. I just can't read anymore. I guess I'm going to have to bump these up to like 15 or 16 font.
Oh, welcome to my world. I know we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I've got 2 sets of glasses now.
Really?
And both pairs are like bifocals, right? I mean, so I've got the pair that I've got on that is supposed to be like for, I don't know, 8 feet and further. And then another pair now that I have to wear. They're my computer screen glasses.
Old Mr. Magoo here.
I know. Well, I can't see. Everything's blurry.
Oh man. Like I said,
I was on
like I said, I only had this surgery on my left eye. my right eye. They didn't do it there because they didn't think it would hold, but I think my eyesight's gotten worse. It's not looking forward to hunting season if I don't get this right eye seeing better.
I give you the thumbs up.
It's hard to read ear tags on cows too.
Uh,
Like I'm like out there, those cows think I'm winking at them, trying to. What's that ear tag number? Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's why they love you, though. That's why they love
yeah,
you. That's
yeah.
why they come to you.
Well, I'm not sending emojis to the cows. We need to change subject.
We got to start wrapping up here.
Facebook is going to censor us again, probably on that.
Well, that means we're doing something right.
Well, probably. Oh, speaking of Facebook and Instagram, we are on Threads for our audience members. We're on Twitter as well. We got too many dang social media things out there. It's hard to keep up on those, but we are on Threads. We're not getting into the political discussion on that. We're on there because we got to be on there. But we are on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And again, if you want more of our content, I know we have that dedicated radio audience. We enjoy you tuning in every day across all 8 of our states and nearly 80 radio stations. For more of that content, of course, westernagnetwork.com. But more of our conversations with our guests and the stories that really impact the industry, these longer format conversations, head on over to our YouTube page, Western Ag Network. Subscribe, follow along. We have shorts. We have our longer format conversations. And, of course, these Sunday recaps where you can watch them 2 months from now and wonder what the heck we were talking about back in the middle of July of 2023. But, just follow us along on those. And we'll probably be giving a few giveaways here in a few weeks once we get these shows up and running. But make sure and join us every Sunday morning here when we do these. And it is fun to see the folks that join us and comment and share our stories along the way. And because really we're just drinking our coffee. Well, I'm drinking my coffee. I know you got a Diet Coke somewhere back behind your stage there.
Oh, always. That's my go-to drink.
But, Russ, I think we should wrap up today's show. I've been a little salty today, but here's a story to sweeten all of our moods and congratulate one of our team members.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that segue. And yes, this weekend, we want to send out a big congratulations to our teammate, Haley Ship, who grew her family by 1 this past Tuesday, July 11th, as she welcomed her son, Wilder Dust Ship, into the world at 9:30 p.m. Haley says Wilder weighs 7 pounds, 2 ounces. And as a broadcaster, now mom, could only share, he has one heck of a set of lungs.
Well, that's just exciting. A big congratulations to Haley and her family up there in Glasgow. And I know her folks, and happy to have another little ranch hand on site there. So big congratulations and just a miracle. And it's just so great to see a new one come in, especially helping grow our broadcast family along the way.
Absolutely.
Well, again, a big congratulations to Haley and Wilder, and can't wait to meet him in person here and hear him put those lungs to use.
And we should mention, I can't believe it, but Haley will be on maternity leave. So if folks are wondering why they're not hearing her on the radio or seeing her once in a while on a television program or even on some of these digital pieces, she is going to take some much deserved time to hang out with her new son, Wilder.
Well, that's great. And that's maybe her calling you right now to check in there. But the joys of live broadcast here today. But again, a blessing there. Great congratulations to Haley Ship and Wilder here today. And you know what, Russ? We've covered a lot of topics here today. And I never think these conversations are going to go that long. And they probably wouldn't if we actually just read these like we were on our broadcast TV programs and only have 3 minutes and 45 seconds to get our information across. But, we've talked a lot. We've had a lot of fun. Of course, I love to poke fun at myself. But again, just a reminder, you too can have steady video of your calves for the video sale behind a tripod today. But
I just want to do the thumbs up now.
Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah. 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 If your livestock sale rep texts you with a question on your contract, maybe call them back. Don't just text.
Yeah, exactly. Get verbal and get your contract, your price set with probably a signature now.
Well,
Higher, higher.
higher, as Evan always said. Well, friends, that's going to do it for this edition of our Sunday morning recap on the Western Ag Network with our ag headlines. And thanks for tuning into the audio portion on my Lanecast Ag podcast platform as well. We're going to continue to have our coverage throughout the week, Monday through Friday, on the Western Ag Network on our nearly 80 radio stations across 8 states, and of course our TV programming in Montana, Wyoming, and the YouTube channels as well. We just want to bring you the top stories impacting Western producers each and every day. On behalf of Russell Nemetz, our videographer Paul Humphrey standing by on the back end of things, making things all work, and the entire Western Ag Network crew, I'm Lane Nordlund. Have a blessed Sunday, and we will see you back here soon.